Okay, Tony Hawk Pro Pinball crew, come on down. So I felt really bad at the Pinball Expo, I think it was. We tried to do a talk like this, and this format is a new thing. We're trying to get these talks to be a little more casual, a little more freeform, so it's not just 9 people in a row saying, yes, I use the Mission Pinball Framework also. Like, this is intended to really show off the creative process. Well, that thing that I thought we were gonna blow through in like 25 minutes ended up going overtime, and we didn't get to interview you guys at all. So introduce yourselves and talk about like Tony Hawk Pro Pinball. Like, how did this come to exist?
Well, I'm Nick Neitzel. I knew I wanted to build a game the second I played a pinball machine.
Right.
It wasn't always something that I was into, and I actually got into it right when we first met as well. And this is my fiance, Allison, who's also the project manager for Tony Hawk. And this is my buddy Wes, who did the coding from Maine.
Okay.
So we're in St. Louis, and he used to live in St. Louis as well and moved away. Today, well, I'm not going to spill the beans. That's your story to tell. But I've always been a tinkerer.
Okay.
I grew up racing motocross. The Tony Hawk series was super important to me, and as it was with a lot of guys coming up and gals, that game is iconic. And then I got into race cars, so like I've just turned a wrench my whole life.
Yeah.
And then when I got in front of a pinball machine and I saw everything that was going on in it, and it's also not filled with oil and gasoline and like all the stuff that sucks about working on a car. Yeah, I can work on it in the basement, and
it's safe.
Yeah. It's safer too. So
safer.
Yeah, safer. Yeah. But like the second I saw it, I was like, okay, cool. These are rad. How do I make one? And then it just went from there. So, and that was the theme that I picked.
You know what I think is really cool about your crew here is it's like, whenever you're into a project and stuff like that, there's the parts that you're into and the parts that you do because you have to, but then there's the stuff that needs to be done by somebody, and you have a real support system here,
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that lets you do the part that you're passionate about and focused on, and it's a privilege to be able to work with like someone like Allison who's going to keep you in order, keep track of your deadlines, keep you on task, and then have Wes be able to take like the work that you're doing and bring it to life on the playfield. And I think that's just incredible to be able to do that. So.
I shoehorned myself in hard. In this project. He wanted to get it done within a 1-year time span, and I just knew that probably wasn't going to happen with his mechanical background. And so at a time he's like, well, I just want to get everything finished before I start doing the code. And I was like, no, we're going to start the code now. And I'm going to start the code, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of pushed him as well, which was really nice.
Yeah, we'd be on Discord, and I'd have my headphones on, talking to him, and he's like, okay, press this button. And I'm like, okay, that didn't light up. And he's like, okay, I'm hacking the mainframe while I'm like grinding on stuff. Like, this is
the first time I physically played the game since its inception.
Oh, that's awesome.
Today, yeah.
Today.
That's incredible.
And then I'll let you tell the story about how you knew that I needed help as well.
So he needed a project manager. I wasn't trying to fill that role. I came downstairs one day, and we had about 5-6 months left till the game was ready, and he's on the floor and just staring into space with this look of disappointment. And I'm like, is everything okay? He goes, I don't know what I need to do next. I don't know. I have so much stuff. I said, okay.
Yeah.
I said, let's just brain dump. Let's just write everything down you have left need to do. Don't order it. Don't time it. Just figure it out. And then I said, okay, now what's the order of what you need to do? And then, okay, now what's the timeline? So I run my own dental office back home in St. Louis, so I run a business. I ran his machine like I was running a business. So
you were the boss.
I was the boss.
That's why if you look at the game, all 3 of us are listed as credits. It's not just like I'm throwing that out there. Like, legitimately, I would not be, the game wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have been in the state it was at Expo. I wouldn't have furthered my career, and I'm now working with the Electric Playground. I was not in the pinball industry before Expo, and now I am. And, I built that game as a resume, and they helped me in, like, having a support system is crucial, and I'm so blessed, to
Well,
have
you also get
special
the-
people in my life.
Well, that, and you get the accountability. You want to make what you do as incredible to show off the efforts that they've done in the best way possible. And
Absolutely.
that starts to feed on itself.
Yeah, and
there were a couple times where I had to kind of rail him back. I was like, no, we're not going to do that. You don't need to change this.
I had to do the same thing in person with the physicalness of that. We did this
Last week.
Last week, he added a very cool ramp on the right-hand side that feeds the right in lane. I was like, okay, that is great. But before he finished it, he was like, I want to take her with the red rail. I'm like, I don't think you should have taken that apart yet, because we're trying to figure out where we wanted to go in the left in lane. And I was like, this looks terrible.
It cost me days.
Yeah.
It was days. I shouldn't have, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then I fixed something else that I shouldn't have fixed on the machine today. So what are you gonna do?
But I think that's definitely part of the challenge with homebrew is like it's technically never finished. There's not an
right,
official
right.
deadline, so you've got to set your own deadline.
I think your deadline gets set when you get sick of it.
Well, that's a good point,
You'll
yeah.
always love it, but you're like it's like how hard you worked to get it to that point, and we got it done in a year.
Yeah.
And that timeline was everybody I've talked to, I'm like, I do not recommend doing it in a year.
It is aggressive.
Use me as an example. I was working full time, and then coming home, I would walk through the door, I'd grab something to eat, I would work until 11 o'clock at night, and I'd get up for 5 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
from work for the last 6 months. And working even more the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So take your time and make it how you want it. And feedback is great, but at the end of the day, it's your game.
Well, I think that's a really good point as far as recognizing when things are done. I think I have a hard time quitting something, So the idea that something has gone its whole arc, I think that's where having a vision for what you want to have for the game and then be able to achieve that vision on that. So sometimes it's just a matter of how do you document that? How do you share it amongst your team and say this is what we need so that little last minute things don't slip in and then get you away from that goal and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm really great at going well, I know I need to fix this, but this could also be, and then it's 10
and
days
it's
later.
Allison and I sitting and saying, no, that's done. We're done.
Yep.
We're done.
We've got to get it in the car. We've got to get to this event.
Mini
Yeah.
interventions.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I mean, thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
So this and again, this game is in our award winners category. So
Nice.
we won the best game from the Twippies for best
Thank
homebrew
you,
game.
thank you, yeah.
Very cool. And so this award-winning team we have here, do you aspire to do another game someday?
Yes.
Yes, if.
So yeah, we have a really. It's going to be a passion project. We're kind of trying to move away from the IP.
Yeah.
It's original IP.
There you go.
It is going to be an original IP. We've got some really cool stuff planned for it.
There's some tech in it.
There's
that-
some really neat little tech that we're like, why hasn't anybody ever done this? It's going to be really neat, but obviously we're not going to say too much about it.
Yeah, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I know I can do justice to the theme because I physically the team, yes, and the theme because I've experienced it myself, and I'm gonna be designing games for the rest of my life.
That's
so
awesome.
if I can put a line
Thank
in
you.
the sand and say that my goal for every single game is going to be theme integration first,
Yeah.
and pinball machine second.
Okay.
And that was my goal with Tony Hawk. I wanted to make a skate park first and then go, okay, let's design a skate park, but also it can work as a pinball machine.
There you go. And that comes across in the game. I describe Tony Hawk to people as I skated briefly in my career or my life when I was younger, and it was one of those things where it's you keep failing until you get it.
Right.
But you don't feel like you're failing. It's you miss it and you want to do it again. Your game has that feeling. It's I'm shooting a
towed the
shot and I
line,
missed
yeah.
it, shot it again. I don't feel like this game sucks, I can't make that shot. It's no, I want to get that shot. And that's something that is a very cool thing to have worked into a game, and even a homebrew game. It's something that you guys did this within a year with limited resources, time and energy, all that stuff. But to see that potent result that came out and experience it, I want to shoot that again.
I think
go ahead.
the one thing that we, especially Nick, really made sure of is before we did anything art related, code related, we want to make sure the game was fun as a whitewood with no sounds, nothing, and we were both
We lost an hour one day in the basement, and we're like, oh.
flipping a whitewood with nothing associated with it. I was like, this is so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
fun.
I made the solenoid PCB to shoot his flippers on like proto board
Yeah.
with like MOSFETs and things like that, just so he could just flip the little flippers. Yeah, so that was the whole idea.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't incorporate any code at all.
Okay.
So like once he got the flippers working, and you know
Get
well,
some
I
base
had it
chip.
tattooed how we wired it up, but.
I just had a cheat sheet on his
Yeah,
arm
no,
there.
I've used that. I've texted people's games at their house and be like, all right, this one's broken.
I want
This
di- I
is
want
what
diode
this.
direction
You
on
see
my
that
arm.
right there?
Yeah.
But yeah, just get it fun first. Add the code second, because you can always fix a code. You can't fix a game.
Well, you know, that's one thing. So you talked about like, you know, the theme that you want to be passionate about and stuff like that. But you also mentioned a little bit about like, what is that unique mech or unique toy or unique feature that should be in pinball? And that's a guiding principle for a lot of games too. Whether it's coming in from a theme standpoint or coming into a why doesn't this exist in pinball yet standpoint and stuff. We've all stood over games and thought, man, if this thing did this instead, that'd be incredible. And I've found that like oftentimes there is a game somewhere that I never knew about that had that feature. But I definitely love seeing, and Anthony talked a little bit about it too, is like when people go, I want this thing to do this strange movement, hold the ball a certain way, where you got to figure out how would I even build that? How would I even code that? But if that's key to your game, you'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bucket full of failed, 3D prints where I screwed it down to the whitewood and shot it and was like, well, that doesn't work, you know?
No, it's a filing cabinet, a three-tier filing cabinet full of failed 3D prints.
I'm gonna recycle them.
Just sign them, because
Yeah,
you're award
yeah.
winners now, so you can sign them and be like, here's a piece of
You're
Tony
really
Hawk system.
flattering
Hey,
us.
dude,
Thank
you
you
guys are
very
great.
much.
I mean, that's the best part about these experiences is like, I want everybody to know that like this process is a lot of work, but it's like super fun. And the camaraderie that comes out of this stuff, like this is just great. So
Thank you.
okay, so I think we actually like have a couple minutes. Like, does anybody have any questions about anybody that you've seen come up here? And if you do, like, come up to this microphone here. I was told to point to. Anybody?
You can ask us anything about our personal lives, whatever.
Lunch preferences, whatever.
Are there issues with IP rights?
You want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it? Or?
I mean, we could talk a little bit about it. So, like, the IP rights, it's one of those gray areas where, like, most of these projects are not commercial projects.
Right.
So that's kind of the easy rule of thumb. But I think that there are other more complicating scenarios when there are other projects that exist that have commercial intent that conflict with other attempts to make, you know, homebrew projects and stuff like that. So the IP end of things is something that, like, you know, if you're creating a product that's using an IP that's going to confuse the marketplace, that makes people think this is actually a game that's representative of this property and it seems legit, that's actually a strange situation that homebrew is getting into now, is that the homebrew games are looking too good. So it looks like a finished professional project, and it's getting itself more on the radar of different IP holders to kind of push back at that stuff.
Yeah,
So
have you heard of any cease and desist orders or anything like that?
there's a club out there, the
Yeah.
cease and desist club. It's growing, but I do think that, like, you know, I mean, you want to talk a little bit about this? I mean,
If it's a fan project, our game is a fan project. So Tony likes it. And that's really cool. And I made his team aware, and I didn't want to necessarily show it off before it was completed.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of it too, because if you're announcing a project that uses a big IP and you put it out there before people get to fully grasp what it is, that can negatively affect you as well.
Right.
So like having something come out and using, saying, hey, this is a homebrew project, this is a fan project, this is not something I'm gonna sell, like, we're big fans, like, it's art. It's just like a painting, in my opinion, and as long as I'm not selling it and people get to play it, I haven't had any problems.
I would say it's definitely not a hard and fast thing. Unfortunately, it gets confusing because there's some IP holders that are so stoked to see that you did something with their IP that they're like, I love it, that sounds great. There's others that now, you run into issues when people start streaming their build process and they're sharing their theme. Now you're loading keywords and IP names into algorithms that are then potentially monetization situations. That's also drawn a lot of attention to IP projects like this, like fan art projects like this, that can be a little challenging. So I'll always encourage you to go and do an original theme, hire a great artist to create something, create a good story that you want to create, because again, IP will attract people to your project as a nobody. You've never made anything before, but a great game, people will play and then they will seek it out. And we've seen that happen on other homebrew games too. So.
You talked a little bit about people seeking you out. Is there like a website for getting communities together to work on projects like this?
can
I
add-
mean, like, so with the fast pinball community, we have like a Slack channel that is only made up of people that actually own fast hardware. So the idea is that everybody in there's got skin in the game. They've done probably what you're seeking to do, probably fairly recently. You know, Lisa Sue talked about like seeing, you know, being a new person in that community, but seeing new questions that like you can answer and diving in to answer that. And that's good way to give back to the people that are interested in getting into pinball. But finding a community, there's a lot of different groups out there, a lot of different Discord channels and stuff like that. Like Ernie's got his Trident Pinball like Discord channel as
There's
well.
the strictly custom Facebook group.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, they're like 11,000
Yeah,
members on
Jake
there.
Danzig runs the Facebook group Strictly Customs. Check that out. I mean, he sees every project that comes out. Stuff I used to feel like I knew everyone.
Yeah.
And there's projects that come up
I'm
there
on
on the daily.
I'm on the Trident Pinball. I'm also in there's an MPF group, like a Google group
Yeah.
that I have talked one-on-one with Anthony.
There is not a group for project managers, I'm sorry.
All right, let's get another question coming up here. And if we don't get to everybody's questions,
Ask
come and hang out with
One
us.
more question real quick.
What's that?
One more question.
Hurry.
Virtual pinball, does anyone ever develop on that prior to doing the real one?
Yes.
Yes,
a good
primarily
idea.
for rule development and stuff like that. To say like, would this be fun if I actually took the effort to make it into a physical form? So
And
yeah, it's
MPF actually works with the VPX, so you can code and do some things within that to kind of get you launched.
next question.
Hello, I actually had two questions, but I'll narrow it down to one. I'll pick the better of the two. I guess the question that I had was, Nick, you mentioned moving away from an IP, moving to something more original.
Yes.
I'm curious what your thoughts, and anybody else over in this area, what your thoughts are on designing a machine first that's based on an IP, and then moving to something that's non-IP, how that prepares you for your own ideas. To like put your own ideas into the modes, and to put your own ideas into the story that you would build, things like that. Do you
If
feel
we
like
had to-
that's more, that prepares you better because you have a structure that a framework that
Right.
you're taking from with the IP, and now you're going to create your own framework? Thank you.
For Tony Hawk specifically, those shots were designed with the IP in mind first. If I tried to put that into another IP, impossible. I mean, every single shot is straight out of the first level of the first game. So if that was an issue, I would have scrapped it.
And yours is a very literal example. I mean, it's like
It's
you're looking at it,
the
it
first
physically
level.
looks like it. Now, you could take other themes that were more generic. I think, you know,
Like Honey Talks Pro Skate, you know.
I said something about like a generic skateboard game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, and it always Tony. So
We'll squeeze in more questions if we can.
Best place to go community-wise, like I can build it, I can conceptualize other stuff, but the programming part. So where would you go, or reverse? Like you're a good programmer, but you need somebody to build. Where would you go to find that partner? Because it sounded like you guys were doing a lot of virtual, like coding for his machine.
Try like the Trident Pinball group, the MPF Google group, both excellent places. I think there's even a subreddit for pinball machine makers and manufacturers.
Yeah, but I think the communities, you kind of find yourself. You know, if you put yourself out there saying, this is the vision I have for a game I want to make, and this is what I'm good at, if somebody could help me with this, there may be people in the inverse that say, like, I am not able to physically build anything, but I can write the most amazing code or graphics or animations than you could ever imagine. You see a lot of cool pairings like that. So there are people out there for sure. All right, let's squeeze one last one in because you made the effort.
I got here last, so you might have already gotten over this. Has there been an opposite of the IP? Like someone saw that and like, whoa, that's nice. Hey, let's mass produce that. Is there any example of that?
For homebrew specifically?
Homebrew, like, wow, this is good. And someone,
Yeah, the most famous one is Scott Denise's Total Nuclear Annihilation. That was a game. That
true,
was like
yeah.
a
Has there
homebrew
been any
game.
others like that where someone made it and like, okay, let's.
Wasn't Elf like that? Didn't Elf, aren't they going to go into production?
Well, okay, so Archer was the game that got picked up by Stern and Keith Elwin and became Iron Maiden. So, I mean, that's a similar path where the layout and the geometry of that game was then used to translate to a commercial game itself.
Oh, that wasn't based on another one. It was totally fresh.
The Archer game originally, that was from scratch, yeah.
Yeah, Elf wasn't though, was it? I thought Elf was based on an old.
But Elf it hasn't become a commercial game.
Oh, he was.
So,
That's news to me. Maybe.
Yeah, I think there.
Send me that link.
I think there was aspirations to do it, and like some a little bit of pushback as far as like stop bringing that game around because somebody's got the license to it. So I don't know that whole story. I might be making that up.
So far, those two.
That's
Nuclear
does anybody else
Annihilation
know
and
of other games? Like I
Archer.
might be drawing a blank.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Motorhead did. I think so.
Oh, Motorhead got it.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Okay, we're out of time. So thank you guys so much for coming out. This is our Making Pinball, Making Friends talk.
Yeah.
Come to the booth, come say hi to everybody. We all want to tell you how cool it is to make pinball. Thank you.